Welcome. What I like to do is show you how to use operations with symbols and grouping symbols. So first thing that we need to talk about is an algebraic expression. Now, all an algebraic expression is just any kind of real numbers with symbols and with terms. Now remember terms, but also talking about variables. So anytime I take a number or multiple numbers or with a variable, remember a variable we can represent like with letters. So I can say x would be a variable. So anytime I say a variable x and I use a symbol, an algebraic symbol, x plus 3, I have now created an algebraic expression. So anytime we take real numbers and we take variables or terms, which I'll talk to you about next, and we use algebraic symbols, addition and subtraction between those two, we've created an algebraic expression. Now the next thing we need to talk about terms. All terms is a number, a variable, or the product or quotient, division of those two terms. So what I could say is, 4 is a term, so is 4 times x, so is 4 times x times y, and so is 4 times x times y divided by p. So whenever we take a real number and we have our terms, anytime that there's multiplication or division, it still is going to remain a term. So this is an example of 4 different terms. Now, the important thing, though, we need to understand about terms is these are all different terms. So therefore, they're not like terms. And what I mean by like terms is when the variable is the same or the variable and the exponent are exactly the same. Therefore, if I have x squared and plus x squared, what that means is, since these are the same variable to the same exponent, I can combine them and say that is 2x squared. Or you could say x plus y plus y squared plus y. And actually, let's just go like this. So here, these two y's are exactly the same, and they're to the same exponent, which we call 1. Therefore, I can add these two up together to give me 2y. However, since this y squared, and there's no other term that has a y to the y squared, I cannot combine it with the rest of my terms. All right? So what I want to do is I want to give you some examples of how we combine like terms. And then I'm going to give you some examples for you to try on your own. I'll throw you some hints to look at, and then I'll go through the rest of the problems. So first one, here I have a term, 3ab, plus the other term, 8ab. So whenever we're dealing with terms, we want to make sure that we combine our coefficient. And the coefficient is the numeric term, the number that is in front of your variables. So here, I'm just going to add 3ab plus 8ab, which would be 11 ab's. And it's a very common, a lot of times we think of this. Remember, just think of ab as just another term. Same like oranges, if you have 3 oranges plus 8 oranges, you're going to have 11 oranges. So the term, you're only going to take the coefficients, and that's what you're going to add with that. For the next problem, if you notice, I have 3 like terms. I have a 5x, a negative 2x, and another 3x. So these are the only 3 terms that I can combine. So therefore, when I write this, I have 5x minus 3x is minus 2x is 3x. Add another 3x is going to give me 6x. Minus 8y. Now I cannot combine these two because even though they're both terms, they're not like terms. On a problem like here with number 3, you could easily add the fractions. I would have absolutely no problem with you adding fractions. I think it's good for everybody to know how to do fractions, but automatically when I get a problem that has multiple fractions or it's very easy for me to get rid of the fractions, I'm going to want to get rid of the fractions. So here's how I get rid of the fractions. Since I know that each one of these terms has a denominator of either 2 or 3, what I can do is I can multiply everything by the least common multiple. So the least common multiple of all these denominators is going to be 6 because 2 and 3 both go into 6. So I'm going to multiply every term times 6. And what I have is 1/2 times 6 is going to give me 3a. Plus 6 times 1/3 will give me 2b. Minus 6 times 1/3 is 2a. Minus 6 times 1/3 is going to be 2b. Now, it's very easy for me to pick which two variables I'm going to want to combine. 3a minus 2a is going to give me 1a, and 2b minus 2b is going to give me a positive 0b. Now, of course, to write this in the most simplified form, we know that 1 times anything is going, or 1 times a is going to give you a, so we don't need to write in the 1. And then 0 times b, we know is going to give you 0. So we don't also need to write in the 0 times b or write in 0. We can just leave this as a. For the last example, again, we look at our terms and I say a squared and b. Well, which other term shares an a squared and a b? Well, we look at here and we say, oh, this term does. Well, I have negative 8 of these and a positive 5 of those. So when I add my coefficients, I'm left with a negative 3 a squared b. And then the next term is, I look at these two. Do these share the same terms? And yes, they both have an a and a b. However, this one's to the first power and this one's to the second power. Therefore, I cannot combine them anymore. And my final result will be negative 2ab plus 3ab squared. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some practice problems. I want you to write down the problems that I read on the board. And what I'll do is I'll go through a couple steps and hints for you, and then I'll let you solve the problems, and then I'll show you the answers. Okay, let's go through some hints. Write these down first of all. Let's write these down and see how you do. Okay, next thing. The main important thing for here is just remember your signs, guys. The best important thing to do for this problem is I would rewrite the problem so they're grouped accordingly. So I would rewrite this as 2a minus ab minus ab. Then what I would do is I just kind of like group them together and say, all right, what is this? And then what are those two equal? So that might help you simplify that. For number 2, you can see I have decimal points. If you have trouble with your decimal points, you might want to maybe realign them, multiply them by 10 so that you get rid of the decimal point, or just make sure when you're adding that you add up the decimal points. And again, I would rearrange these so I have my 2 points are next to each other. Here, I'm going to have to deal with fractions again. Remember, you have your 2 denominators. To get rid of a fraction, you have to multiply your least common multiple. Here, the smallest number that both 2 and 5 go into is 10. So if you multiply all these numbers by 10, you will have got rid of your 2 fractions and will have an equivalent expression. For here, it's just a very long expression. I would just make sure you rewrite them and make sure that you're only combining terms that are similar. All right, let's get to some answers real quick. So here, I grouped them together. 2a minus 2a is 0, 2a. Negative 2ab minus ab is a negative 2ab. However, this we don't write in, so our final answer is negative 2ab. Here, you can just say, you can combine these, together, but if you have, let's just multiply everything by 10. Well, no, we don't need to. What I can do is if I have 0.1 minus 0.5, that's going to give me negative 0.4 x squared plus 3x. I can't combine these, even though they are x's, I can't combine them because they don't have the same exponent. Here, I told you the least common multiple is 10, so let's multiply everything times 10. And so I'm going to multiply my numeric. 10 times 1/5 is the same thing as 10 divided by 5, which is 2a squared. 10 times negative 3 is going to be negative 30b. 10 times 1/2 is the same thing as 10 divided by 2, which ends up being a negative 5. I'm sorry, there's a negative and a squared. And 10 times 5 is a positive 50b. Then I can combine these two, and I combine these two. Remember, when you combine your like terms, you're only combining your coefficients. So 2ab, 2 minus 5 will be a negative 3, a squared. Negative 30 plus 50 is going to be a positive 20b. Here, to do number 4, I look at this and say, what is the only other term that has an m and an n? Well, it's going to be this term at the end over here. So if I have 12 mn's plus another mn is going to give me 13. Actually, you know what? Let me show you my final step way to do this. The last way to kind of do this is you can rewrite them above each other. So one mn would be 1 m and n. And then here I have plus 8m squared n. And then minus 6mn squared. Well, there's no other terms. These terms are not the same. So I combine these together. So my final answer is 13mn. So what you can do is you can take your like terms and just put them over each other and then add them up. So 13mn, then plus 8m squared n minus 6mn squared. So ladies and gentlemen, that is how we use operations with symbols and grouping symbols. So I hope you learned a little bit about combining like terms, algebraic expressions, and grouping. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Thank you very much.